when it comes to driving at night, remember to drive safely, effectively, efficiently. Make sure all your lights work at night. Make sure everything is under control. Make sure you are doing your pre-trip inspections, making sure that you are scanning your mirrors, also known as traffic monitoring devices, and so you can be able to last all night driving and knowing that you have full ease of control, safely operating and driving your commercial motor vehicle. Trainer here. Listen, here I'm going to share with you all today's topic, night driving. We're going to talk about night driving. That's the topic for today. Now, night driving, when it comes to night driving on the road, there's some things to keep in mind. Obviously, you'll be driving, at some point, you'll be driving at night. Now, nighttime is very important when you're driving at night to keep in mind of having a greater safe following distance when you're driving, because at nighttime, it's not as easily clear to see at night versus during the day, because during the day the sun is out and everything is illuminated. Whereas at nighttime, most of the area is dark, and sometimes you have street lights, light poles, depending on where you are at, maybe on certain highways or roadways. But generally speaking, at nighttime, you really need to have a greater following distance. You also want to be mindful of when you're doing nighttime driving, you want to make sure that you are taking your time, especially scanning, frequently checking your mirrors, and being sure that you are operating the vehicle safely, just by being comfortable enough to be able to maneuver the vehicle safely. Now, when it comes to the lights, when it comes to nighttime driving at night, you definitely need to have your lights on. So generally speaking, there's two types of lights. You have headlights that operate on two functions. Either you're using them as regular headlights or low beams. Some people call it fog lights. Now, fog lights, depending on the type of vehicle you're driving, fog lights could be a separate switch on the vehicle that you're driving. So for example, I'm driving a motor coach bus. So the fog lights is a different switch on a coach bus, depending on the type of model as well. But generally speaking, the two types of headlights, or the functions of the headlights, you have low beams and you have high beams. Now, high beams, you want to use your high beams if it's 500 feet away from the next vehicle or the vehicle ahead of you. If that distance between you and that vehicle in front of you is 500 feet or more, that's when you want to use your headlights at night. However, if you are driving and you have vehicles that are less than 500 feet away, then you want to turn off your high beams and just keep your regular headlights on, or keep your low beams on. That's because having your high beams very high at night close to a vehicle could actually blind the other vehicle's sight. Blind meaning that when they look in their mirror, their traffic monitoring devices, when they look at their mirror, they will see that shiny glare, that bright light. So you don't want to shine the light bright on the vehicle closest in front of you. So that's why if it's less than 500 feet, you turn off your high beams. If it's more than 500 feet, if the vehicle is more than 500 feet away from you, then you turn on your high beams. Especially raw areas, you want to have your high beams on. Also, when you are driving, you really have to be very careful. Sometimes you see vehicles pulled over the side of the roads. For example, it could be a tractor trailer having either their four-way flashers on, or they pulled over at night. And just really be mindful as well of maybe pedestrians or any animals that could potentially be on the road. So those are the things to keep in mind, because usually, depending on the type of animal, they will be out at night. For example, deers, foxes, and depending on the area that you are driving in, signs will tell you that, signs will show you and tell you that a deer is generally in this area. And usually they're out at night, sometimes on the day, depending on where you're at. But when it comes to night driving, it's very important when you are driving to make sure you're still scanning ahead. You're looking far out ahead and you're looking far back. Now, at nighttime, it can be a little bit challenging at night to really see as clearly versus during the day. But especially at night. At nighttime, generally speaking, cars and your vehicle, you should have your headlights on, so that way nighttime the brake lights will illuminate and your headlights will illuminate as well. Depending on the type of commercial motor vehicle you're operating, you have clearance lights. So for example, on a truck, on a coach bus, clearance lights are lights that are on top of the vehicle, and they are clearance lights or ID clearance lights because it identifies identification. It identifies that this vehicle specifically is designed for a vehicle that is tall, such as a truck and or a bus. So they are ID clearance lights, letting you know that this vehicle can see the overall clearance, that it is the clearance of a tall vehicle, such as a truck and or bus. So those things. And then checking your lights. So before you even, obviously, you have to look at the itinerary, look at your trip paper, you're planning the trip as well, knowing what time you're leaving. All those things really take an effect as well. But keeping in mind to prepare yourself mentally, because at nighttime, generally speaking, our human bodies, our biological clock is designed for us to go to sleep at night. So that's another combative or another thing to really keep in mind when you're going through and driving the vehicle at night. But then also preparing yourself in terms of knowing which functions are where, knowing it automatically before you start operating and driving the vehicle. And part of this is doing the pre-trip inspection. Even if you are starting, let's just say you have to arrive at the job or the terminal or the yard at 8 o'clock at night. Then, generally speaking, depending on the time of the season of the year, the sun will set and it will be nighttime. Or let's just say you have to be in at 11 o'clock at night. 11 o'clock at night, it's dark out, generally speaking, and you would go ahead and prepare yourself. You're probably going to need a flashlight. That's one of the things to be prepared. So then when you're checking, doing a pre-trip inspection, you're checking the tires, when you're checking underneath of the hood, if the engine is in the front of the vehicle, or if the cab is under the hood, or under the engine, or if the engine is in the back of the vehicle, such as a motor coach bus. Have a flashlight with you, so then that way you can be able to see what you need to check, such as the coolant reservoir, the oil level, and so forth. Those things. But really preparing yourself, having a flashlight, and then having a rag or cloth, so then that way you can also wipe your headlights, like your headlights, possibly your clearance lights, your brake lights, your tail lights, so that way when you turn on your headlights or your lights in general, not only that they come on, but it doesn't be distorted or it's not too much of a shiny glare, if you will, because that can also distort the view of you seeing at night when you have your lights on. Now, another thing keep in mind, it's different when it comes to driving at night when it's no hazardous weather conditions or adverse weather conditions. If it's just pure nighttime, the roads are dry, weather's nice, it's a different feel, it's a different time driving at night when there are no adverse weather conditions versus when there are extreme weather conditions at night. When it's at nighttime and it's extreme weather conditions, that is a sure definite that you must, and now more than ever, have to really take your time, because it could be pouring down raining at night, and on top of that it could be fog and freezing temperatures. All of those things really come to mind. All of those categories, all of those factors come into play when you are driving at night. So it's even more imperative to have a safer following distance. Between 5 seconds is the bare minimum of following distance, but you want at least, especially during average weather conditions and at night, between 7 to 11 or between 7 to 13 seconds of safe following distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. The more safe following distance you have, the better. And when you're driving at night, obviously you want to make sure your lights work. This is part of the pre-trip inspection. You got to make sure your headlights work, your left turn signal, your right turn signal, your four-way flashers. You want to make sure that your back left turn signal, your back right turn signal, your back four-way flashers. You want to check that the brake lights work. Now, it's good if you have a spotter to check. Another way to check your brake lights, because it's kind of almost impossible to try to check your brake lights by yourself unless, one, either you have a spotter, or two, I've seen some people put the wheel chocks, apply it on the brake while the vehicle is parked, and then check in the back. Or what you can do is find a certain landmark where you are near, whether it's a fence or a wall, and use that as a reflective to tell you, or to indicate or show you whether or not if your lights work. So if you're close to, let's say, a fence or a wall, a solid background, and you look in your mirror or your traffic monitoring devices, you apply your fuel on the brake. If it lights up, then it works. If it doesn't light up, then it does not work as far as your brake lights. Then check your reverse lights. That's important too. All you do when you check your reverse lights, put your vehicle in park, obviously, by applying the parking brake and then putting the transmission in reverse. Or if you're driving a stick shift manual, then you put the gear, and then you would check, go out, safely check to see that the reverse lights work. Now, obviously as well, you want to make sure that the inside lights work as well. So for example, right, driving a motor coach bus, you have to make sure that the inside lights will work. So you got the inside lights for the passengers and the inside light for the driver. Now, you want to be able to automatically know and sense where these indicators are without you looking or staring at the indicators or staring at the switch. So it has to be automatic, right? You're glancing, but you're not taking your eyes off the road, right? You're not staring at it, but you have a general sense of doing that, and it takes time to be familiar with this. So for example, if I turn on this, and it's 3 buttons, or it's 3 levels of when it comes to the passenger lights. So for example, one, the switch that's already up, that means that it's off. When it's in the middle, then that means that it is on for the passengers to choose whether they want their reading lights on or not, depending on the type of motor coach or model of the vehicle that you're driving. It has different settings, right? And then the last setting is all of the lights or passenger lights come on automatically. Now, some newer models, these lights are in different functions or different positions of the vehicle, so you really have to know your vehicle. When you know your vehicle, you become one with it, and you become even more comfortable to be able to drive safely, effectively, efficiently, and safely at night. Also, you have the driver light. So that's the driver light off, this is the driver light on, and then this is the driver and the front row of the seat on. Now, to be transparent with you all, at night, they say you shouldn't have your driver light on or the in-cab light on at night. And that's because when you are driving, you want to be able to clearly see your mirrors. You want to be able to clearly and safely maneuver and get into the next lane or get over or make turns, if you will. And you do not want the lights to distract you or distorting your view when it comes to driving at night. So, but this is just the purpose of me showing you all that when it comes to driving at night, these are the things to really keep in mind. When you're on the road, really gotta scan your area, really have to make sure that you are in a safe position so you can be able to safely stop the vehicle, especially at night. So overall, when it comes to driving at night, remember to drive safely, effectively, efficiently. Make sure all your lights work at night. Make sure everything is under control. Make sure you are doing your pre-trip inspections, making sure that you are scanning your mirrors, also known as traffic monitoring devices, and so you can be able to last all night driving and knowing that you have full ease control, safely operating and driving your commercial motor vehicle. And overall, that's the topic when it comes to driving at night. Make sure you take your time, drive nice and safely, drive slow, take your time. And that's the key word, take your time, especially at night. Otherwise, accidents could happen and anything could happen, really, especially at nighttime. So really keep in mind of those principles, making sure that you are obviously reading signs ahead of time when you have your lights on. And this is another thing, before we end this topic, another thing, when your lights are on, you can be able to see the signs, especially if you're on a freeway or a highway, and your headlights will reflect on those signs, and then that way you can see, all right, which exit you about to get off, or what's the name of that intersection, right? What is that sign? What's the posted speed limit? So those things as well can reflect on it as well. Sometimes you'll see the moon out shining bright too, but it doesn't necessarily mean that will be enough light to see at night, depending on what area that you're in. But at nighttime, it's really more so taking your time. Generally speaking, people out on the road, they are not as focused at night, or maybe they're tired, or then you have some dangerous drivers or have hazardous drivers or distracted drivers at night. So it's really important to not just be an offensive driver, but a defensive driver. There's offense or defense. Being an offensive driver is knowing what you're doing, what you need to do, and how you are driving and focusing on that. But being a defensive driver is being mindful what other people are doing and make sure you're protecting yourself. So defense, you're defensive in terms of making, in this context, defensive is you're making sure that make sure you got your bases covered. You are in a safe position to be able to either slow down, to maneuver the vehicle, just in case if there's a distracted or hazardous driver around. And you are either maneuvering or just being in a safe position to be able to stop the vehicle safely and to operate. But being mindful of what other drivers are doing, that's defensive. While at the same time not being too focused on what the other driver's doing, still being an offensive driver on focusing your actual driving. Overall, it does take a little bit of semi-multitasking because you're frequently scanning your mirrors and you're not staring at it. There's a difference between scanning and staring. Scanning is just, it's like a glance you're looking at, you're glancing, you see it, eyes on the road. You see it, eyes on the road. So, and that takes time. You want to look for scanning your mirrors about a good second, less than a second, generally speaking. And it's simultaneously, because if you're staring too much in your mirror, then that means your eyes are not focused on the road. If you're staring too much on the road, then that means that you won't be able to look at your mirrors to see what's on both sides, and that you might need to look in the mirrors to change lanes. You might need to change lanes, and in order to do that, you need to look in the mirrors. So they say if you cannot read your mirrors, you cannot drive, and that is important, right? So, but staring means that you're looking at the mirror for a longer period of time without looking anywhere else. That's why you have to glance. So glance is peripheral. You can see the mirror or your mirrors, but you are not staring at it to the point where it's taking your full eyes and peripheral vision off the road. So really keep in mind those principles. Keep in mind of driving safely, preparing, doing the pre-trip inspection. Also, if you're stopping at night, making sure that you're doing the en-route inspection or on-the-road inspection as well. And making sure that you are doing the post-trip inspection when you are finished with the trip. But overall, that is the topic for tonight. That's the topic, driving at night. So make sure you drive safely, take your time, really scan ahead, look far ahead and far back. Make sure you're reading and scanning your mirrors as well, and drive safely. And I'll talk to you soon. See you in the next video, and take care. Hey, BET Trainer here. Listen, if you really had true value out of this video, go ahead and click that like button and share some honest comments about this video, because this is going to help other people as well see the video and get the value information, so that way they can be inspired by what you're doing right now as well. So also, if you want to get the latest updates, go ahead and click the subscribe button, so then you can be able to always be updated on the next instant video that will be put out. So again, go ahead and do that. And this video was sponsored by BET Life Services and CDL for Life.